All right, here he is, the current Executive Vice President, CEO, and Director of Player Personnel for the Cowboys. Stephen Jones with you on 105.3 The Fan. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Doing good, guys. How you doing?
Oh, doing great, thanks. I think we're all picking a fairly comfortable win here. The sports books have you favored by 10. Is that about the way you're seeing this matchup here on a Football Friday?
Of course not. You know us. I mean, these games are too hard and too hard to win, and we'll have our work cut out for us. I know Coach Fangio's one of the great defensive minds in the league. I know he'll have some good defense dialed up, and certainly the Broncos on offense can certainly give you fits. So we're going to have our hands full and better come ready to play, or that's how things happen, that you wish wouldn't have happened. But this team, I think they're in a good place, and I don't think anybody's looking past this game.
Stephen, I'm going to ask you about a guy that isn't the most talked about guy on this team, but Jayron Curse, because Christy Scales told us before last week's game that he had the green dot, that he was going to be calling the defense. And Jayron Curse has been in the league as a safety this is his 6th year, never really been a full-time starter, but has become a huge part of what you guys are doing. What all goes into that sort of career arc where it's 5 years of special teams, sometimes a starter, to wear the green dot, call the defense, be one of our leaders?
I think it's, it starts with having a vision for a player and his skill set. And I think I've mentioned it before this year. Certainly when Dan came in here, when Mike brought Dan in, he had a vision for the type of defense he could see us being based on the personnel we had, based on personnel we might could get in free agency, whether it's a Curse or a Kazee or a Neal, obviously Urban and company and those guys inside. But I think having a vision for what a guy like a Curse could do, and certainly Dan had that. Certainly you look around the league and see the mismatches that go on with these tight ends and how athletic and long they are. And his vision was Curse with his length and his speed could match up. And certainly, he's done that well, in addition to being a great blitzer for us as well. Has really just found a role, and he's a smart player. That's why he is wearing the green dot. He's very comfortable with his communications, and certainly a big part of getting everybody lined up back there. And he's just done a hell of a job for us.
Stephen, we've established on the show you don't give a damn what I say. So
that's not right, Brian. That's not right.
Okay, can you walk me through, because when you watch Steele play, and I was thinking that, okay, their plan is to keep Steele at right tackle because he's got an all-pro playing inside of him to his left. And sometimes you can have that guy to clean up any little bit of slippage or mess. Can you walk us through the decision to move Steele over? And I know he's playing really, really well for you, but did you have to give it some thought, like, man, he really plays well playing next to Zach Martin?
Well, we did, and certainly it was a big discussion. It wasn't an easy one, and of whether to put Lyle at left tackle and Steele at right, or obviously the way we ended up. But I think, obviously Lyle's just now coming back from being out for 5 weeks, and that's really where he's played most of his NFL career. Although he was a left tackle at LSU, so certainly wouldn't be foreign to him, but. Just felt like after weighing everything, what each player does best, or that it was in our best interest to line them up the way we're going to line them up Sunday.
So, Stephen, I don't think you can answer this, but I just have to ask it because I'm curious. Now that LC will be back on the field at his old position, when this game's over, Tyron is healthy, who's the right tackle?
Well, we take it one game at a time. You said it best. Not going to answer that question, but certainly, as I've said throughout the year, you end up needing them all. And, obviously Tyron's is struggling a little bit with that ankle, and we want to get him good and healthy and see where he ends up, and then we'll go from there.
Stephen, with so many players dinged, are you feeling like it's getting close to a point where it could be a threat to the run, or is this just the normal run of business dealing with injuries in a football season?
I think this is part of it. I mean, that's just part of being in the NFL. All teams have injuries. Certainly, you get pandemic challenges that are out there, which we're seeing. We had them early. It's just part of being in the league. The great news so far for us, other than, certainly, just a tough one to lose Jabril Cox for the year. The good news is most of these guys are, can join us back. And with the new rules in the NFL, the IR, DTR, it's a good amount of time. You got to sit them 3 weeks, but usually, you come back after 3 weeks. That's a big positive. And we have a lot of our guys that are going to be coming back, and some that have been on there a lot longer than 3 weeks because their injuries were longer, in Gallimore and DeMarcus Lawrence. But just feel like overall, we don't think we're at any type of a point where we're overly concerned about anything. You always want players to stay healthy, but at the same time, really feel like we're in a good spot and feel good about our depth and feel good about what's coming.
Is there any further risk of injury with Dak and his calf?
You don't ever know for sure, but I would say this: we sure feel really good about it, that it's healed and ready to go. But those things are you never know until it bites you. But certainly, we feel 100% better about it than we did this time last week.
Steven, do you feel like and I know working with you and stuff that making moves and kind of how you think a little bit, but you talk about guys coming back. Are the roster moves you have to make going to take care of itself, or is this one of those things that you guys are really, really grinding on this to try and set your team up for the next 2 or 3 weeks?
Well, they will take a lot of times, as you know, Brian. It does take care of itself, but you still have to be thinking if we happen to be so fortunate that it doesn't and that everybody stays healthy, then certainly we're starting to work through who would be those guys if we need to, get some players that we feel like are only going to make us better, and D-Law and Gallimore and those guys. How you get them up if you don't have the injuries and the dings that usually come with this game. So you really got to do both is the answer. But as you said, most of the time, these things take care of themselves.
Steven, I want to ask you about one of the guys who we talked about him before the season started. We thought Randy Gregory might be on deck to have a nice year this year, having a full offseason, actually being part of the team with the NFL changing rules for the better for mental illness and humans. But as this season goes along, did you think about trying to do something before the year? Did you know this was coming? Are you ready to write big checks?
Well, I just think, we're right in the middle of this right now, and certainly, going out and winning football games and moving the ball forward here as this season goes is important. But at the same time, hats off to Randy. Not only, is he having a great year on the field, what he's accomplished off the field, getting, his life and, his personal in the proper place has been so impressive. But, Randy's certainly one of the favorites around here and certainly doing a great job. And that'll be something, obviously, we're addressing as we move forward.
It's Stephen Jones with us. Okay, so looking back at the trade deadline, I thought it was a time to go for a little bit, but with free agency coming up and some cap decisions to be made, I just had uncertainty about what this roster is going to look like the next couple of years. Do you guys feel like you can keep the team at this kind of level in the next couple of seasons?
Yeah, I do. I think we can. The great thing about it is the youth on this team. The draft picks is. We had a lot of draft picks last year. See us having a lot of draft picks in the future, and just feel like if we keep drafting well and keep getting those guys on the field, then they're going to step up and play well for us. And certainly, we're not going to be able to be dipping into free agency as much as we have in the past. But if you have good young players coming up, you really don't need to.
How does CeeDee Lamb get fined for uniform violations and waving to people, but Harrison Smith is choking him on the sidelines? We haven't heard anything yet, Stephen.
Well, those things are left up to the league office, and they do as good a job as they possibly can up there. And there's always going to be some things that you scratch your head on, and you wonder how in the world somebody might get away with something. And then sometimes you say, well, we feel like we're on the wrong end of this and they're being a little more ticky-tack with us. But, those things have a way of evening out. over time. And certainly we think, at the end of the day, we'll get our fair share against us, and hopefully we'll get our fair share that work for us.
Stephen, if I was standing in an establishment with you and your tie loosened and maybe a cocktail in hand, what would you tell me about what you thought about Cooper Rush playing in that football game afterwards?
Well, I just hats off. I mean, what a great performance for him. He stood in there and just got better in my mind as the game went. Ended up dodging some bullets there, and then obviously that last drive was something special to step up like he did there and drive the team down and throw the ball around the field like he did, and make great plays under pressure was huge. And for us to be able to win that football game without Dak, with him as a quarterback, certainly is a big, big, big win. But more than that, I think it gives everybody on this team confidence that if Dak had to miss some time, that Cooper could step in and do a nice job for us in relief. So that certainly makes us feel better too. But hats off to him. He's prepared all year. He's competed all year. He was an underdog to even be on this team, and here he is now standing there at number 2 and doing a hell of a job for us.
And I was going to ask you, too, about Cedric Wilson and what he's been able to do for this football team. And, you've had a lot of guys that have stepped up when major pieces of your team have been out. Talk about his development, how you saw him. I know talking to some of your scouts along the way, they were super, super high on him when really nobody else was. So kind of talk about the development of what you've seen from Cedric Wilson.
Well, he's a former player's son. He knows about being a pro. He was a quarterback, which I think is always, Mike McCarthy, Will and I talk about that all the time, how, if you were a quarterback at some point in your career, high school, college, how that gives you an advantage. And certainly I think it gives Cedric one in terms of his football IQ. But he's just one of those guys, when you first step out there, he doesn't do a lot to just wow you in terms of, his speed, his size, or anything along those lines. But once you get him in game-like situation, we use the term baller or however you want to describe it, he just makes plays. And, when the ball's coming his way, he figures out a way to catch it. I thought that New England catch he made was unbelievable in terms of the one on the out route out there that looked like it was going to sail over his head, and he came down with it. But, he's just a football player, team-first guy, do whatever it takes, and certainly has filled in admirably for Gallup since he's been out, and have nothing but great things to say about Ced Wilson.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Have a nice afternoon. Give him hell on Sunday. We'll be pulling for you.
Great being on, guys.